Hello and welcome, everyone. Let's take a stretch and arrive fully into this space. Yeah, shake it out. I like that. I'm gonna shake it off. My cat is in my lap and she's looking at me like, what the hell are you doing?
My cat's on my lap too, actually. That's why I'm sitting here instead of my desk.
Excellent, excellent. Kitties are very welcome into this space. So today I'm gonna grab my little chart over here. Today we are in organizing energy, in the sub energy of innovate. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about organizing because organizing is one of those things that tends to intimidate people, the idea of organizing or getting organized. But organizing is one of the greatest stress relievers that is at our disposal. When we feel overwhelmed, when we feel stressed out, one of the most empowering things that we can do is just to sit down and get organized. It usually doesn't take as long as we think it's going to take. Often it's just like 5 minutes of actually looking at our calendar and figuring out what goes where and when things are going to happen. Because otherwise, we tend to think it all has to happen all at the same time, which is silly
Mm.
nonsense. So I wanted to first ask, when I say the word organizing, what do you think of? What immediately comes to your mind?
For me, it's just stressful.
Right.
Uh, I I don't know. I think for years I tried to schedule every little minute of my day, and of course it's impossible because something will go wrong and throw everything off. So I used to live with a lot of frustration. So now I avoid it completely, but that doesn't work either.
Right. And Elizabeth piped in with how I fail at organizing. Not failure, just learning. We're learning. Okay. But yes, organizing is one of those things that tends to be kind of a bugaboo for people. But I have learned to embrace and love it over the years as one of the, like I said, the greatest stress relieving tools at my disposal. Once I realize, oh, actually, there is time for everything, I relax and I release. Once I realize, oh, I can schedule something into my day and then reschedule it and nothing happens. No, no, there is no hammer, right? There is no hammer waiting to like come down and smash me on the head when I do something wrong. Like it's all going to be okay. So we are going to work a little bit today on some joyful organizing. But first I wanted to just talk a little bit about so I heard something the other day which really really resonated with me and I wanted to share with this group, which is that we have all of the influence and none of the control when it comes to the external world, right? When it comes to our internal worlds, we can control our energy. We control how we respond to things. We control our mindset. That is the only place that we actually have control. And even there, we don't really have control over outcomes. We have control over processes. We have control over how we choose to show up, over actions that we take. When it comes to the external world, we think of ourselves as having control, but we do not. We have no control over anything external, but we have all kinds of influence. Do you understand the subtle difference here, right? So it's like when you talk about the butterfly effect. Butterfly flaps its wings, and it could not possibly predict what that is going to do out in the world. It could end up, creating a tsunami on the other side of the world. It did not intend for that to happen, right? That was not something that it set out to do. But it had this influence on the world around it. And especially when we do repeated actions, when we have actions that repeat, this creates a massive influence on the world around us. So this is why I am so obsessed with like process and routines, repeated actions that we take, because it is in those small repeated actions that we actually have a massive influence. We can't predict what that influence is going to be. And we can't, beat ourselves up if we have an effect that we were not intending to have. The best that we can do is to sort of set our intentional direction and take actions in that direction. There may be unintended consequences, but that's how it works. That is how the game works, right? And the universe knows much better than we do what those outcomes could or should be. So I'm going to read what Elizabeth wrote here. She's not feeling well, so she's writing today rather than speaking.
Yeah.
She says, I was just talking about this very thing with a client who was stuck in paralysis with writing her book, because she has a book she wants to write / needs to write, but she doesn't know what kind of impact it will have for the likely audience. And we can't know. We can't know. We can't know what kind of impact we're going to have. All we know is the impact that we intend to have. And that intention has an impact on us. Because again, that's the only thing that we actually control is the impact we have on ourselves. I also saw something yesterday that was like, yeah, so true, which is the world doesn't need our art. It doesn't. It would get along without it, right? The world doesn't need our art. You know who needs our art? We do. We do. We need to create that art for ourselves. It is the impact that we have is on ourselves. And that has an impact on everyone around us, right? The impact that we have on ourselves has an impact on those around us. And if we're positively impacting ourselves, then we're more likely to have a positive impact on the people around us. Now, the immediate impact may not be the long-term impact either. We may appear to have a negative impact on someone around us. They might freak out when they see our art, right? Frankie's laughing because like that happens, right? Sometimes people are triggered by something that we put out into the world, but then years later, they look back on that and go, oh, wow, I get it now. And I'm so glad I had that experience. We cannot know what the ultimate outcome of anything is. And there is no ultimate outcome. That's the other thing. We think of like destinations, right? But like there aren't really any. That's just a stop on our journey. There is no destination. It's all journey. It's all influence. And the influence is constantly shifting and changing. So we really need to let go of the idea of outcomes altogether and think more directionally. Where are we focused right now? What is the direction that we are focused in? And taking actions, taking steps in that direction that will inevitably have an influence. So we're going to get back to all of that, but I wanted to kind of orient us with what we're focusing on today, which is this idea of organization. And now we're going to take a little step back and look at the bigger picture of the cosmos and what's happening right now. We are in organizing energy, like I said. So we are in the first quarter moon. So we're moving out of dreaming energy here into organizing energy. That has an extra little spicy kick right now because the moon is in Gemini today. And 2 days ago, on the 4th, Jupiter turned direct in the sign of Gemini. Jupiter rules Gemini. And so it's a pretty special thing when it goes direct in its kind of ruling sign. Jupiter is one of these signs that's really kind of weird and special. Jupiter is a planet where it's like it rules luck, it rules fortune, And so you think of when it's in retrograde as it being a bad thing, but that's not necessarily so, because that means that the luck turns internal, right? We have good luck in making changes, positive changes on the inside. Now it's shifting back to the external. So we're more likely to have that positive impact that we're hoping to have on the world around us. When Jupiter is in retrograde, this can be a time where it feels like no matter what we do, we're not really having an influence and impact on the world around us, on the projects that we've been trying to move forward. They kind of go into stasis. The same happens with Saturn, right? When Saturn is retrograde, our projects have a tendency to kind of like be in stasis. Well, when it turns direct, that shifts. Jupiter can, it's a amplifier. That's the word I'm looking for. It's an amplifier. So any energy that we are focused on gets amplified with a direct Jupiter. And we have a tendency to have a shift in our fortune. So if things have not been going the way that we had hoped, Jupiter often brings a shift toward for the better, right? But if things have been going great for us, sometimes Jupiter signals a shift where we need to learn a lesson or we need to go in a new direction. We need to pivot. And we suddenly kind of hit a wall and go, oh, like things were going great and I was going in this direction and suddenly I feel like I need to change directions. Jupiter can do that. And especially when it is in the sign of Gemini, this may have something to do with creativity and communication because those are the ruling areas of Gemini. So this is a time when we may find that our communications open up, amplify in a new way. We suddenly are attracting a new audience or reaching people in a way that we hadn't expected to. But it also may be that something that we've been trying to get across maybe suddenly gets across in a way that we hadn't predicted and isn't necessarily the impact that we were hoping for. So we need to kind of stay open to the possibilities here. We can't really predict what that impact is going to be. And we can't beat ourselves up if the impact we're having is not the impact we were hoping to have or intending to have. It's the impact that we needed to have. And we can't always see what that ultimate impact is going to be. And so this is not the time to get into, you know how we can get into these little loops where we replay over and over again, like a conversation that we had or a way that someone responded to us. If we got, a negative review or something like this can really like replay in our minds. We need to be extra careful with that during this time when Jupiter is in Gemini, because again, what we replay in our minds over and over again gets amplified. And so this is a time where we have to be aware of the little looping, like if you have a song stuck in your head or you have a phrase that keeps playing over and over again, just pick up that needle on your little record player and move it someplace else. Don't beat yourself up. Don't get into a whole, downward spiral on that. It's just a matter of noticing, oh, that thing's replaying again. I'm going to play a different thing instead. So this is a great time to have a mantra that we return to. We, pick the needle up and we move it to the mantra. So I'm going to suggest that our mantra be, I have none of the control and all of the influence. I have none of the control and all of the influence. So we remind ourselves we don't control how other people are responding to us, but we can return to our intentions and focus on the influence that we desire to have on ourselves first. So what is the influence that we want to have on ourselves? We are influencers primarily for us. We are our own influencer. Everyone is an influencer, whether they realize it or not. They just often it's an audience of one. What we expose ourselves to, what we replay in our minds, all of this is our own influence. We also had on the same day, So when Jupiter went direct in the sign of Gemini, we had Venus moving into the sign of Aries. Aries is a fiery, fiery fire sign. So Venus, that passionate energy moving into Aries means we probably have a little fire under our tushies that we may not have felt for a while. So if you suddenly are feeling like, ooh, I need to move things forward, like I need to get things going. And if you're getting ideas and you're feeling that spark,
Mhm.
big time. I am too. So that's great. You're right on time. And this is a time when we can really get some forward momentum going on our passion projects. And our passion projects may be relationships too. I just want to remind you, our creativity, our passion, that also influences our relationships. And when Venus is in Aries, this may be a time to really assert, like, this is what I want. This is what I want to feel and experience in my relationship as well. So if you're feeling that fire may extend beyond just your projects to your life. And that is a good thing. This is going to light things up. It's going to encourage us to take risks. It's going to encourage us to try new things, go in new directions. And that is wonderful. We need that. We want that. Venus is going to go retrograde in March. And so this is a time to really enjoy this forward momentum. Because again, when Venus goes retrograde, it turns that energy inward. And so we start to sort of like self-interrogate about our self-love and looking at how we can be a better partner to ourselves. All of that can be a little uncomfortable. So let's enjoy this forward out external momentum with our partners, with our projects while it lasts. Get some good momentum there. Tomorrow, Neptune, which is the planet of dreams and illusions, is going to be conjunct with the North Node in Pisces. So again, our North Node, that's our North Star. That's what guides us. It's like our desire that leads us to our destiny. It's that little GPS signal that moves us toward our mission, our purpose, our higher passions. And it's going to be conjunct with Neptune in the sign of Pisces. Now, Pisces is, again, a very dreamy sign. So when Neptune joins up in there, do not be surprised if you start getting some seriously vivid dreams, possibly lucid dreams. This is the best time to keep a notebook right next to your bed or in your bathroom if you sleep next to somebody and don't want to turn a light on and start writing. But have that notebook there so that you can really start to pour out whatever it is that's coming through in these dreams. These dreams, they may have some really clear messages for you at this time. And especially with that forward motion in Jupiter, in Venus, this could be get some really good clarity for us. There's a lot that's kind of falling together, coming together. There's been very heavy energy in the first half of this winter. A lot of really heavy energy, moving through recognition of like, oh, things are bad and going to get worse. There's revolutions that need to happen. There's big changes on the horizon. All of those external planets that we talked about last time, all the external planets are going into new signs. That does not happen very often. And it's all kind of happening in a row at the beginning of this year. And so there's big, big transformations, metamorphoses, big shifts that are happening. And we've been in preparation mode for a while for all of that. We finally have some forward motion, some forward momentum. Those changes are starting to happen, and we're starting to see some external growth and some external motion. So this is an enjoyable time. We're coming into the full moon next week. That full moon is in Leo. So that is a show up and shine full moon. In this political climate, this is a real challenge for us to show up and shine, to be our authentic selves, to set the example without putting others in danger who do not have the same privileges that we have. This is a real challenge that we are being lanced right now. And so I want us to be extra aware of just loving on ourselves and thanking ourselves for being brave, for showing up with our courage, for helping others when they come to us in need. Again, we don't control, we influence. We don't control, we influence. And often that influence is just showing up as an example of self-love, self-compassion, self-forgiveness, self-appreciation, and appreciating the gifts that we have by putting them to use without judgment, just showing up day after day in our creative process, which brings me back, finally, full circle, to organizing energy. I know that we have done exercises. That's the word I'm looking for. We have done exercises in here before with backward planning, looking at what we want to feel and experience and what needs to happen for that to be possible. But we've done it on a very long time scale for the most part, right? Looking at our sort of ultimate goals. What do we want to create in the world? Today, I want us to think a little shorter term, just looking at this week. By the end of this weekend, what do we want to have created? What do we want to be feeling and experiencing? So we're just going to time travel to Sunday. Sunday. And we're going to take a moment to just think about on Sunday night, what do we want to have felt, experienced, accomplished? And then we're going to do a little bit of backward planning from there to look at how we can use the time that we have over this weekend to make that possible. Are there any questions before we dive in? So first, we're going to just put that vision together. What does that look like? In fact, let's just do a little time jump to Sunday, okay? So it's Sunday night, and we're looking back on this wonderful weekend and everything that we felt, experienced, and accomplished. And we'll do that and then come back together, okay? All righty.
How far the needle actually moved.
Forgot to resume the recording.
Okay.
So I love that. Let's just recap what you said.
Okay, I'll do it. So I just want to feel a real sense of peacefulness and satisfaction, have some tenderness over what didn't happen. Because I have a
Yes,
tendency to say, I didn't do this, I didn't do this, and didn't do this, and completely ignoring that I actually moved the needle a certain distance.
yes, I love
And
that.
okay.
So focusing on the feeling of satisfaction and the feeling of celebrating whatever has happened. So it's not so much about, by Sunday, I want to have accomplished this. It's by Sunday, I want to have a feeling of accomplishment and of celebrating whatever has happened. Beautiful. Elizabeth, if you want to put anything in the chat, I will read it. In the meantime, so I had a few things that came up. This was really interesting. I did not even know that I wanted to reorganize my closet, but apparently that is something that I would like to do. So this morning I was thinking about this. I was in my, I was like getting dressed, and I have my sweaters on a very high shelf. And I was like, why do I do this to myself? I'm the short one here. I access my sweaters all the time. I want them to be on a place, in a place where I can access them easily. Like, why do I put them on the highest shelf when I could put David's stuff up there and he would much more easily be able to reach that stuff? And so I was just thinking about that and thinking, it again, it's the small changes that make the biggest impact over time. It doesn't seem like a big deal to have my sweaters on a lower shelf, right? Like, what's that going to save me? A few seconds, right? But it's also about the emotional impact of that. Reminding myself that, like, oh, look, I made life easier for myself because I love me, because I want me to, have nice things, and because I deserve nice things, because I get to prioritize my own time, and even a few fractions of a second, right, make a difference over time. And it's not just about the time, it's about the quality of the time. I'm less frustrated now. I'm not feeling like, I can't reach it every time I try to get a sweater.
It has an impact on your energy.
Absolutely. And that is the biggest impact over time. So Elizabeth says, I had to pause participation because lunch is ready, but Sunday I want to feel a renewed sense of health and vitality with having showed up for the things I have been able to fulfill, and embodying peace and forgiveness for the things that got postponed. Beautiful. I'm celebrating the investment of physical energy and resources in getting some deep cleaning projects completed. Yes. That is another thing that I would love to be able to do. So I also mentioned, so I'm working on a project. Uh, this is a really fun, silly project. My friend Stephanie and I want to write some plays for teenagers, like for teen actors. And they're going to be basically a film noir sort of detective style thing. And they're going to be fairy tale and fictional characters that live in a place called Fiction Falls. And there's a rainbow bridge called the Zephyr, where we can like cross back and forth now. And so when these characters come into the real world, they get in all kinds of trouble, and then they hire Rosie Rhubarb, who is our detective, to sort it out and fix it. And in this case, it's Humpty Dumpty, who is the head of the Egg McMafia, but who has been shattered. And all the king's horses and all the king's men are trying to put him back together again. But in the meantime, we're trying to figure out what happened and why, because the prices of eggs are very expensive right now. The name of the play,
Mhm.
of course, is Foul Play. You're welcome. So that's something that I really am looking forward to spending some more time with. This weekend, I have a brainstorming session tomorrow with Stephanie. Aria came up with some fun ideas, like that it could be one of those things where every night it's different, like the outcome is actually different. The audience gets to vote on who is actually the murderer, or the pusher, the person who did this, the villain. And so they all get a fun villain speech. And so they might, any night you might get to give your villain speech. So I wanted to talk to Stephanie about the logistics of that, but I think that's a really fun idea. So that's something that I'd like to um, give some time this weekend and lean into a little bit. Uh, Not just because I want to, it sounds fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, it's really fun.
Mhm.
It's really fun. Not just because I want to, get something accomplished and have something to show for it, have a couple of scenes or something, but because it's really lighting me up to do something this sort of silly and fun. And, I can put all my goofy puns in there and just let it rip. So that is something that I want to look back on my weekend and say, "Ooh, I had a lot of fun doing that," especially if I can get Aria to do it with me, because when she collaborates with me, it's a lot more fun. It's a lot more enjoyable. So there we are. So now what I want us to do, now that we have this vision of what we want, I want us to backward plan a little bit. Where are we going to fit these feelings and these experiences into our weekend? If you want to actually look at your calendar, we can do that. But just thinking about what are the actions that we need to take in order to have those feelings and experiences that we want to have. Now, the action doesn't necessarily need to be, for example, I reorganized my entire closet, or I wrote, 3 scenes. It could just be I showed up and I made an effort and I moved at least one sweater, right? Like it could be really simple. So let's take the next couple of minutes and just think about where can we fit this into our lives? Any questions? All right, cool. So the first question is, how'd that feel? How did that feel? Yummy? Yeah, organizing doesn't have to feel yucky. It should feel yum yum. It should feel like, ooh, I am prioritizing the things that actually light me up. I'm finding space in my life to make these things happen. I love to put things directly on my calendar. That is my favorite way to organize. Just create some space, put some time on there. If I move it around, no big deal. But now I have reminded myself that this is important to me and I want it to happen. I put things on my calendar. Sorry, my cat desperately wants inside. One moment.
I'll share while you're out.
Okay.
Um, so one thing I didn't mention is I've been wanting to clean my shower. It needs a deep clean. But what's annoying me the most right now is that the drain is a slow drain. So if I
Mm,
just do something to take care of the slow drain, that's definitely going to bring momentum to the rest of it.
absolutely. It is, again, the small shifts that make the biggest difference over time, as long as we are consistent with them. So what I was going to say is I often put things on my calendar like rest. I put things on my calendar that are like block this time, just so that I don't put something in there and I know I have that breathing space. I put take a walk. So your calendar doesn't have to be like, accomplish, 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 do this, do that. Your calendar can be like a reminder for self-care. Your calendar can be a reminder to breathe, to take space. Your calendar can be a protection of like, no, nobody can put a meeting here because this is my time for me. So calendaring is something that I love to do every week. I tend to calendar on Tuesdays because that's Tears Day, which is the organizing day in our week. Monday, I look more big picture at stuff and think about my vision for the week, what I want to feel and experience and accomplish by the end of the week. And then on Tuesday, I put stuff into my calendar. So I'm going to read some of the stuff that Elizabeth wrote here because it's wonderful. So my big projects for deep cleaning are a focus on the bathrooms, kitchen, and floors throughout the house. I want to say, so in bulk, right? We had in bulk last week. We are in bulk energy right now. Great time for cleaning, and especially anything that has to do with water or fire. So the kitchens and bathrooms. This is a great time to do deep cleaning on those things. So beautiful. Bathroom is nearly complete. So I'll get that done today and tomorrow. Saturday morning is when the whole crew generally jumps in on housework together. Awesome collaboration. So we'll be able to knock out the rest of it. I love it. I have some partnership collaboration calls today and tomorrow, which will help me have a clearer understanding of the types of support I want and where to find it. Beautiful. Sunday afternoon, I have Women's Circle, where the topic is self-care. Perfect. And it'll be the perfect rest stop to take inventory and check in with my inner atmosphere. So cleaning the shower is what started my deep cleaning spree. It's provided much needed medicine that I had no idea I needed. Yes, often when we take one small action, right? Like when I clean my sink, then I notice how dirty the what do you call it? The spigot is. So now I'm like, I've got this beautiful clean sink, but look at that dirty spigot. Well, I better clean that spigot. Oh, look at the mirror right next to it. It's dirty. It creates this beautiful cascading effect when we take one action in the right direction. So often all we need to do is just tip things in the right direction and allow the flow to take us through the rest. Is there anything else that you would like to say, Frankie, before we move on?
One of the things that I really like to do on Sundays is just take a long bath. And that's where I can take inventory and then also, you know, do some energy work. Cleanse.
Absolutely. Yes. So keeping that time sacred for ourselves is what we're talking about when we say organizing. It's about keeping our time focused on the things that actually mean the most to us. Because what we do is we have a tendency to go for the low-hanging fruit, where we're like, oh, I can take care of this small thing very quickly, but we're not actually thinking about the bigger picture and what impact does that have in the long term. And so what we want to be doing is taking the small actions that actually add up to something big for ourselves. Looking ahead at next week, of course, we have the full moon of rewilding in Leo on Wednesday. So that's just before our meeting on Thursday. So we're going to be doing a ritual on Thursday for that full moon. Full moons, I also want to say this, like, you don't have to do it like on the day when it's officially the full moon. It's like, the fullest moon. Often it appears full for the night before and the night after. So I don't want you ever to feel like, oh, I missed it. Like, no, 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 no. You can do a full moon ritual anytime during that kind of full moon energy window. And Elizabeth left a nice note here. I love and deeply appreciate that reframe, Adrienne. I have a very different relationship with the vocabulary of care than that of organize. Yes, organization is self-care. I really want to emphasize that. That's the overall message of today's meeting. If you walk away with nothing else, organization is self-care. Beautiful. So next week we will do a ritual for that full moon of rewilding. I also want to let you know next week I will be on Whidbey Island. I'm going to be doing some readings at the Oaklawn Enchantments with my sister in Oak Harbor. We finally have been offered a space, a regular space to do readings over there, which is really fun. So that'll be our first one. And so I will be in a different space there, but still should be great. And I think Rebecca will be able to join us as well, which is always really fun.
Are you in Washington or Oregon?
Washington.
Okay. I'll
Yeah,
tell
so
my
this is
Washington
Whidbey
friends.
Island, and Elizabeth has seen pictures and is in love with it already. So it is a gorgeous, gorgeous area. I love it too. I love having the excuse to go out there regularly. So I'm going to be doing that the first Thursday, actually it's the second Thursday of every month. I'm going to be out there.
Are you gonna make a little thing for it so we can share it with our Washington friends?
A little thing? What do you mean?
Like a little oh, oh like a little Canva thing or whatever. So we like a little
Absolutely.
flyer.
Yes. Yes. I will definitely have a post that I will put out and that y'all can share about on Instagram, etc. Thank you so much. I adore you, my dears, and I will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, Lizzie.